Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode. Today we are talking about craft room storage. Organizing your crafts can be a bit overwhelming because there are so many different categories that you can organize, and wondering where to put everything can be a bit overwhelming. So I'm going to walk you through a few different spaces that I've organized and how that space became a beautifully organized craft storage area. Few tips that I'm going to share with you now before we get into it is the first thing you're going to want to do is empty out that space completely. It is going to create a massive mess, but there's reason behind all of that because you want to get everything out so you first of all know what is in there. Second of all, to give you a clean slate to start with so you can visualize how you want it to look. And then from there, literally craft a solution, a good foundation for that area to keep items going back to the right place. You're going to be decluttering, sorting through, creating piles. This is likely going to be the longest step of the whole process. Be patient with it and be honest with it. If you're not using it, get rid of it. If it's broken, throw it away. Have a garbage bag or a donate bin with you to kind of guide you along in this entire process. And then when it's time to come to reconstructing everything, bins and labels are going to be your best friend. If you've ever walked into Hobby Lobby or Joann Fabrics, you know it's very overwhelming. Well, again, when you walk into a lot of these stores, they also have the signs up based by your category of where you're going to go find that item you need. Well, the same type of concept is going to translate into your craft room storage area. You're going to use bins and labels to keep things going back to the right places. So let's hop into it. We're going to talk through different bin styles, what to use, and the lasting system that you can create for a beautiful, organized craft room.
Okay, so here is the before picture of this craft area. And you can see there's just a lot of items here, which is why everything was taken out from there and started sorting through everything to get a good idea of what categories were there and get a better visual of where things can go. So I'm going to show you the after here, and I'm going to walk you through the entire process. Okay, so the first step here, after everything was done and decluttered and sorted, we had a good idea of what different type of categories that were there. So there were a lot of books. Books went up at the top shelf, and only because they are not frequently accessed. We started with them up there and then moved down to the next row where the fabric bins were and put them all in a row together because our brains love symmetry and things that match and that are cohesive. We're just attracted to it. It's a matter of fact. It's scientific. It's not even me just like saying, oh, hey, this is great. No, our brains really do love it. So you'll see in the previous picture, if you want to take a look back at it, that they were kind of scattered throughout the storage unit. So we put them all in one row so they were nice and matching. Then from there it was putting the categories in these bins, and the reason why these particular categories were there, so the burlap, ribbon, fabric, crafts, and party, those all went in there because they had a lot of different designs and colors that didn't necessarily match, that were kind of loose leaf items per se. So we put them all in the bin because then it would minimize the amount of clutter that would be displayed. And then the label obviously on there, so it's easy to find what is needed and you put it back. Then down below was paint. So this particular client paints a lot and wanted to have quick, easy use. Again, organize them by color so you knew what to find, can put it back quickly, and used open containers here. These have matching lids, but left them off. So it's just a grab and go type scenario where you get what you need, you put it back quickly, or you can take the entire, couple bins with you if you're going to go paint somewhere else. So that is why those were there, because it brought in that nice visual, the rainbow style matching in with the books. Then down below, we added some red solid colored bins, again, to kind of minimize some of the clutter, but then you can still peek in and see what you need. And then way down at the bottom were photo albums that don't get used as frequently, which is why they were stored all the way down there. Okay, so for this particular project, this storage unit was vertical and had some deep shelving. Prior to the previous one that we just talked about was a cube unit. So definitely different type of setup and scenario here, but the same type of steps were used to create an organized look, feel for this particular craft area. So everything got taken out from there and then started sorting and decluttering. So this is a picture of the scenario of decluttering and sorting through everything. And this is what I do on every single project. You'll see some post-it notes up there, and post-its honestly are like crucial for me when I'm organizing any space, whether it's at home or at a client's house, because they keep the categories there and I'm able to change them if I need to, but can move the post-its around and they still stick so I can find them. Plus the colors of them are bright, so it just makes it easier to organize everything. So this, I wanted to show you that, sorting through all of this, it is going to take a little bit of time, but it's going through everything, getting rid of what is not needed, what is being used, and just it makes it easier to then, once everything, you've got all your categories and you know what you're working with, then you can start putting everything back together. Okay, so now you can see here the importance of why it's nice to take everything out so you can get your visual of how you want it to do and how you want it to look. And I typically go through this exact same process again on every project where we've got the bins. Now this client, she had these bins. So basically what I did was, after everything was out, I started playing around with the bins to figure out what type of setup and structure could we use in this space to maximize everything that was in there. So as we get back to the whole our brains love symmetry piece, you'll see that we've got those 3 bins there on the side with the other stackable clear bins next to it so that they match. And then you've got the drawer set up for the drawers there for the organizers. And then actually below the third row down there is some drawer units as well. So this gives you a visual to figure out, okay, how do we want things to look? And this is also why I love the whole post-it process, because I take those post-it notes and I stick them on these bins and units and play around with the setup to figure out what is going to make the most sense. Is this going to be the best use for these items in this particular bin and this space? Okay, so here is an example of organizing supplies by color, and you can just see it's beautiful. We love rainbows. There's a reason why we all love searching for them after a storm comes through. They're just so pretty, and they just give us like hope and just make our moods change. And while, yes, it may not always look like this, it gives a good foundation of how you can put things back. Or makes you find what you need quickly and easily, especially when it comes to color. And even if you've got kids using this, they are instantly attracted to color. They know their colors right away. It's one of the first things that they learn. So putting them back where they belong in that color scheme and pattern, that will become natural to them. So when you're going through the paper, the color, the paints, setting up by color makes it easier for you, your kids, everyone involved, and it makes it easy to put it back as well. Plus, then you also know, like, if there is a color that you're missing or that you need, you can quickly identify it. Okay, so now here you can see this is an example of putting everything back together, items going in their place. You've got the Post-its everywhere there just to make sure that this is the right spot for it, and a nice little rough draft before the final label gets put on. Okay, so here is the after of all of this and how everything was decluttered to sorted through and transformed and put back into place. So again, starting up at the top, and we're going to work ourselves down, is putting items up there that aren't frequently used or you don't want to have your kids have access to it. For example, here there's Sharpies and scissors they did not want their kids having access to. So those went up there. And then just some other items like a learning bin that they don't access as frequently, and a paper roll, but putting those up there and then working down. So you've got the tape and the glue, the coloring, ribbon, and then the paper. So the paper was on that particular shelf because you wanted them to be able to get what was needed. There is also containers behind that the paper shelf there, and it was just for items that weren't as frequently used, but they could access it when they needed. Then moving down was the kind of the party items and the markers, and then you get down to the drawers and put labels on the drawers so it was, again, easy to get what they need and can put items back once everything is done. So as I've previously showed you with those crayons and markers in that drawer there, those can come out. So you can take those out and go color at a table if you want, and then you go put them back right there. And that's kind of this whole entire setup with a lot of these bins, is that they can come out with you and then you just put everything back in its space. And that's the beauty of using bins and labels when getting your craft room organized. That was the same scenario in the other project that I showed you, that those bins were, they're portable and you can take them with you, and then you just go put them back when everything is done, and you sort by color. It just is visually appealing and easy to maintain. Okay, so now it's your turn to go get in the zone and get your craft room organized. Empty out the space completely, declutter and sort through it all, and then reconstruct it with bins and labels. All the products that were used in both of these scenarios will be linked in the description. That is it, my friends, for this week's episode. As always, thank you for joining in. If you like this episode, be sure to share it with a friend who might need some help. It helps us get this content out to other people that may need it. As always, subscribe and follow us on social at Organize Marie.